Back for another late night edition of the College Football Show right here at the Voice of College Football. Thanks for being here. As always, we just wrapped up about an hour and a half of Miami and then Florida State talk over on those respective channels. So check those out. As again, Florida State, Miami, of course, went to battle this past weekend, and Miami might be the best football team in the country. We talked Florida State taking on Pitt this week. So check out those shows right here at the Voice of College Football. But let's dive into a Friday night matchup as we take your comments and questions there in the chat. We will leave the link for the call-in portion of the show as well. But on Friday night, just as we did last year in Piscataway, with Washington missing a kick against Rutgers that handed the Scarlet Knights a win against the Huskies, the two do battle on a Friday night again this week, this season, in Seattle this time. We got Andrew Rice checking in from On the Banks on SB Nation, talking Rutgers football. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Doing just fine. Appreciate you stopping by to break down the Scarlet Knights for us. So the last time we saw Rutgers on the field, of course, they're coming off a bye week to prepare for this trip to Seattle. They had a 2-touchdown lead against Minnesota, could not hang on, and had a late drive down the field. And they had a snap go awry that kind of derailed drive into Minnesota territory. They fall to the Golden Gophers 31-28. Just your thoughts about where this Rutgers football team stands right now.
Well, especially coming off of the bye week, I think if there was any time that they're going to show significant improvement, obviously it's going to be now, essentially, because if you remember last year, they went on a 4-game losing skid, went into the bye week, and then just took off and won 3 out of 4 from there. But I feel like I'm not super confident heading into the game against Washington. Jonah Coleman is one of the best running backs in the Big Ten right now. I believe he has the 3rd most rushing yards. That's not something that inspires confidence because of how porous our run defense has been so far.
So you're not confident. Vegas is not confident. The Huskies are a 10.5-point favorite, and we know it's been much documented, especially in this conference, this being the conference that, well, I guess along with the Big 12 to a certain extent, but more so than any other conference, has geographically spread itself out from east to west coast. And your team there in this game speaks to that more than any other matchup. Primarily, yes, it is the furthest distance you can get other than Rutgers going to USC as they did last season. So it's staring 0-3. Greg Schiano 0-3 is staring him and his program in the face. So what is Rutgers playing for at this point? What are the goals? What are the expectations and aspirations for 2025?
Well, I think especially in the next couple of games, they're playing to salvage a season. They're going to have to get an upset somewhere along the way just to even qualify for bowl eligibility. I mean, you're talking we have Ohio State, Penn State, Oregon, and Illinois to end the year as well. So to get to the 6-win mark, we're going to have to pull an upset somewhere. Yeah, I feel like Illinois or Washington are probably the two most likely, but that's essentially what they're playing for in the next couple of weeks because that end of the schedule is so brutal.
All right, Andrew, for those tuning in on Friday night, probably going to watch more Rutgers football on this particular week just because of it being a Friday game than most Saturdays when they're up against tougher competition in terms of the network games. Who's going to stand out for Rutgers that people should be looking out for?
Well, I don't think you can go wrong when you're saying wide receiver Ian Strong because he's just been a complete stud for monster this season. He's really been unstoppable. I mean, the only time I don't even think he's had less than like 70 receiving yards a game that he's played in. It's just been ridiculous. With Washington's running defense being so stout, obviously Rutgers is going to lean on the pass a lot more. That's only going to create more opportunities for him, and even players like KJ Duff and DT Sheffield as well.
All right, Andrew, appreciate you being here. We want to encourage everyone to check out Rutgers football, and of course, basketball is just about to start. They had Big Ten Media Days going on this week in Chicago, so you can catch Andrew and the rest of the crew there on the banks. You see the X handle right there for Andrew and the SB Nation site for Rutgers Athletics. Appreciate you being here, Andrew.
Thanks for having me on, man.
All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football and take your calls as we prepare everybody for a week 7 in college football. And I'm glad to see that Hall of Fame Trey is calling, because I believe he called, what was it, 2 nights ago? Did I cancel last night's show? Was it last night's show I canceled? I don't remember now what the deal was. Yeah, that's right. I was called into duty on the Michigan Live show of all places last night. So John D'Adamo was on the road. TJ took sick. Fortunately, he's doing much better today, but TJ's had the flu. Therefore, I got the call from the bullpen. And myself and Matt Zemek hosted the Wolverines live show last night. It's all coming back to me. So after all the shows that I did and working a full day during the day, I said, you know what? No show tonight. But despite doing 2.5 hours on Florida State and Miami and just getting free of that here in the last 45 minutes, here I am. And so it does bring to mind that Hall of Fame Trey was on the line at the previous show waiting to jump on, and we were not able to get to him. So Hall of Fame Trey, how you doing tonight?
I'm all right. I love bothering you, Mark, and we always love you, man.
All right. Well, I'll take that.
And you're always a busy man, man. You're always committed to college football, and I appreciate that.
Well,
and
it goes way beyond that these days, but I do appreciate that.
Man.
I've not been able to focus actually on the college football. If you would see my daily schedule these days.
Oh man, I believe it. I'm be making pole barns for farm buildings and stuff, and I'll be building. I have a YouTube channel too, and I've been crazy with all this work, and it's hard for me to even do any videos myself. So I know how it is. It's crazy out there. And you're one of the first ones that got me into making videos. It was you and Urinating Tree and KTO, y'all three, with y'all analytics and different views of football in college and NFL that got me into it. So I appreciate that. I want to let you know that.
I'm being put in the same category as who? KTO and...
Yes. And Urinating Tree. He's the guy that, makes parodies of NFL, basically all sports.
Okay.
But y'all three got me into sports, YouTube. I want to let you know that first before we get into it.
All right. Well, thanks for being here.
Yes,
anything on your mind tonight?
Let's talk about Florida in a couple games. Before Florida, we got an interesting game with South Florida and North Texas, man. That's a big game right there for Group of 5. North Texas is the real deal, man. No one's seen that coming. South Florida, man, they're doing good. I'm sad they couldn't hang in there versus Miami, but this is basically their last opportunity to really, make a statement, and go through the playoffs if they go undefeated. But they can't take no L's, it seems like. If South Florida took an L, it looked like they're not going to go unless something else crazy happened. Do you think that?
So South Florida lost to Miami, of course, 49-12. They defeated Florida. They've got an American Conference season, which obviously includes North Texas at this point.
Oh, my bad. They do got Memphis. My bad. They still can recover if Memphis is good, though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, so it's quite the schedule for these teams at the top of the American Conference, because they run into each other here in mid-season play. I know there's a Memphis-Tulane game to be played. I don't know if exactly who factors. Obviously, they're in one of these conferences where not everyone plays everyone, so we'd have to slice and dice each schedule. But I do think that because of the strength of the American Conference, and especially since South Florida stepped out of conference and defeated an SEC team that should finish, 6-6, 7-5, that that maybe they get the bid even with 2 losses.
Maybe, but they can't drop anything from the only next loss they can have is probably this one or Memphis. If they drop anybody else, unless Navy, gets ranked, and I think Navy's undefeated.
Yes.
Are they even close to being ranked? I look at the polls, they're not there, but they must be in those what are those other poll votes.
Yeah.
But they'd be mighty close. I would not be shocked if they keep being undefeated, they're gonna be ranked soon. So maybe they have one of those 3 losses can, still get them in the playoffs, but any other than those 3, I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs, Mark.
Okay, so South Florida, if they get through North Texas on the road this weekend, they've got FAU, Memphis on the road, and then after a bye week, Texas San Antonio, Navy on the road, UAB on the road, and Rice.
Do you think they will get through it? That's like a hard challenge for them, man.
No, I don't think they're going to get through this.
I don't think so either.
No.
Not undefeated. I don't think so. I think they're going to take a bigger L with this one than the Memphis and Navy. To be honest with you, this will be the loss.
Unless the American Conference becomes a complete bloodbath, meaning just they cannibalize themselves, and the conference champions like 9-4. I just think that whoever's able to survive this is going to be the rep. We've got the conference has performed extremely well. This conference has a better record against the Power 4 than the ACC does.
Yeah. And why is everybody talking shit? Well, they're not getting the credit they deserve. The American Athletic Conference is impressive, especially the last couple of years, man. And I'm sad that no one's really giving them their flowers.
Can you imagine if this conference had not lost Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF?
Yeah, I didn't think about it. That was a long time ago, and I'm surprised they lost them like that. I didn't think about it. Think about it this way, Mark. It was so many changes in these conferences. Sometimes you don't even think they left, and they're in other conferences, and you don't even think about it until you really look at it. But imagine with Cincinnati and Houston in that conference, Mark, what would come out to be? That'll be big.
That's what I'm saying. That would be
huge. I think they get more recognition. That's crazy.
Yeah. Memphis and Tulane, that's going to be a key game. They get together the first week of November.
Oof, my gosh.
And Memphis and USF, that's 2 weeks earlier, October 25th. So 2 weeks from this weekend, we've got USF and Memphis playing at Memphis.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting right there. I think South Florida take one more loss. If they don't, this conference is going to be a bloodbath. We don't know who's going to come out of it. It looks like a lot of good players. But I want to get your take before I get into Florida, then leave you. What do you think about Auburn and Georgia game? Everybody, these Georgia fans don't admit it. They got to be scared of Auburn. Auburn's for real.
Well, they're for real in that they've got a capable football team. I don't know that they're for real in regards to competing for
there you go.
Like that,
they're capable to pull out, beating Georgia. This is their best chance within years.
Yeah, and that said, they have challenged Georgia on occasion. They had a game on the Plains a couple of years ago in which they had a score lead in the fourth quarter against a Georgia team that eventually won the national championship. So they can play Georgia tough. So the thought here is that look at what Auburn did at Oklahoma when John Mateer was still healthy. And they took a lead in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left, and they had every call in the world against them in that game. The officials basically took it away from them.
Sure did.
I did not see any of the Texas A&M game. I know they only lost 16-10, but if you look at that game statistically, they did get dominated, and they just could not move the ball in that game. So if Georgia's defense is going to get healthy, you would think it would be this week against Auburn.
Yeah, the last couple of years, and they are impressive, especially versus Oklahoma, and that's a bummer. They did get called against them, but the Texas A&M, like you said, it looked like Texas A&M really dominated a game. I don't think they were even threatened, but Auburn actually held Reed pretty well, in my opinion, on scoring. But let's talk about Florida. And I'm one of the biggest Billy Napier haters, Mark. I never liked him. I didn't want him here. Then I gave him a chance, and in the first year we lost to Vanderbilt, and then the next couple of years he keeps messing things up. And it's 7.5 on the screen, and I'm kind of worried. We're on the road, but we're not very good on the road. We're terrible on the road. But with that performance versus Texas, that was the best performance in his whole coaching career at Florida. That is what we've been promised with the hype of DJ Lagway. The defense been carrying us for a couple weeks now, and we did not have the offense to match it. That was the best put together game plan by Billy Napier. Do you think he will carry on to the next game? I don't think so. Billy Napier is,
So I've seen quite a bit of Florida football this year. I saw most of the Miami game. I saw the Texas game, pretty much start to finish. I saw the South Florida game when that got interesting. I wasn't planning on watching it, but once I saw it was a one-score game in the third quarter, I watched the second half. So I've seen quite a bit of Florida, and I saw him play LSU. I've seen a lot of Florida football this year. And like you say, this offense has been completely atrocious throwing the football, especially. We know DJ Lagway. People are focused on the 5 interceptions against LSU. If he throws 3 interceptions in that game, they win in Death Valley. And but they've been able to run the ball. I really like Jaden Baugh. The offensive line really fired out last week against Texas. They were just a flat out better football team than Texas last weekend. It was a one-score game, but they were clearly the better team.
Oh, for sure.
But like you say, it's been Jekyll and Hyde with Billy Napier and this Florida team the last 2 years. So no one expected them to beat Texas. And for them to follow up with back-to-back strong performances, especially on the road here.
There got to be a time. There got to be a time in Billy Napier. We got to stop with the bad starts. We got to stop being 2-3, 3-2. Let's be 4-1 or something.
That ship has sailed for this season, of course.
Oh yeah, right. but can we? But imagine, I don't know if it's possible, and I don't think so clearly, but maybe a little small chance. Imagine if we beat Texas A&M, and then we break even, then we beat Mississippi State. That's a dang good football team. I don't care what anybody says about Mississippi State; they're damn good, and they prove a lot. And then we beat Georgia. This is our best year to beat Georgia. Besides what happened in the last 3 games, And then what happens? We beat Georgia. We got Tennessee, and we beat them.
Okay.
Now, could we beat 9-3, make a playoff with the resume we have?
You should make the playoffs. You're throwing a lot of ifs out there.
That's what I'm saying. It's just being hopeful. Now, I've been a downer now, Mark. I've been down.
Okay, I'm going to be a downer, and I'm going to tell you to look and see, excluding last November, when has Florida strung together any good football consecutively under Billy Napier? Now, again, they did it last November.
Yes.
But I am going to be a believer in this comeback if they go to Texas A&M and win. Then you're going to see me start to believe.
That's what I'm talking about. If we beat Texas A&M, I'm going to start believing. But we got to stop with these bad, terrible starts, And it's like you said, Jekyll and Hyde. Don't you get to a point you get tired of that as a fan base and as a team? You might want to give up on him at some point. Don't you get tired of that?
Well, you tell me. Of course, I assume you are tired of it, and the Florida fan base is not going to accept 7-6 and 8-5 forever. So we all thought that he was finished after the previous week performance, but he's on life support. But he was on life support this time last year too. So
it depends on what happens in this game. If he gets blown out by damn 30, it ain't gonna last very long to the Georgia game.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna.
It seems like that Georgia game. That Georgia game usually gets people fired, and the way he was going to it, was before. He kept buying himself another week. But do you think if we beat Texas A&M, do you think we can beat Georgia?
Well, I think you can beat Georgia whether you beat Texas A&M or not.
Oh, now come on, Mark. That's even I'm a Florida fan. I don't believe that. No, that's hard.
You don't think that Florida could go to Texas A&M this week? They're a touchdown underdog
No, I'm
and
not
lose
talking
that
about
game
Texas
and still beat Georgia.
No, if we lose to
Sure they
Texas
can.
A&M. If we lose to Texas A&M, no.
Sure they can. What have you not been watching over the last 2 years?
If we
Why
lose,
they just got mauled by Miami and then they came back and beat Texas. They've been doing this constant. We don't know who's going to show up for this team.
but look at this though. We have
They
been
almost beat Georgia last year with a third string quarterback.
well. This is true. DJ Lagway, we could have beat them, and they know it. But let's be honest here, Lou. They are a better football team than us. And Georgia's always been prepared against us since Bill and Napier can't get a game plan going now.
Well, of course, they're a better football team. We know that. But that doesn't always decide these games. I'm just telling you what could happen. I'm not telling you what's going to happen.
I know.
It
all depends on the Texas A&M game now, Mark. What was your prediction to that game?
Well,
For Florida and Texas A&M.
People pay their hard-earned money to get my predictions, so I'll just post my record on the screen right there, so you can be an upper tier member here on YouTube, or go over to Patreon and you can get those selections by the week.
Right.
So 119-24 says I got about an 85% chance of picking that game right.
All right. Do you think Texas can have a shot over Oklahoma?
Oh, of course they've got a shot.
Oh my God. Really?
You don't think Texas has a shot?
Hell no.
They've got zero chance of winning that game against a backup quarterback.
No. What? You seen how Arch Manning, even Florida, we have been. Arch Manning is probably the worst overhyped quarterback I have ever seen.
Okay.
He's probably worse than DJ Ungulak.
I understand that. Oklahoma is a 1.5 point favorite, and you're telling me Texas has zero chance to win that game.
You seen that Oklahoma defense?
I understand. I know the personnel, sir. So I'm not telling you that Texas is going to win the game. I'm telling you that they've got generally a 50-50 shot of winning this game.
No, they can't have a 50-50, Mr. Mark, because look at Oklahoma. They are more put together. I don't know what Brett Venables did, but they have put together a playoff team.
Well, I'm impressed with Oklahoma as well, and I believe in Oklahoma. And after this statement, I get to get to these other calls, but let's not oversell Oklahoma too much. I predicted Oklahoma to make the playoffs before the season started. I don't know that there are a lot of people out there that did that, but I picked them to go to the playoffs. So you don't need to sell me on Oklahoma. However, they beat Michigan in Bryce Underwood's first road start. Okay, that was an impressive win. The Auburn win was not impressive. We just discussed that. And other than that, who am I missing that they've beaten? Have they beaten anyone else of consequence? I don't believe so.
Mr. Moore, you giving Arch Manning that can't even throw a pass down the field and look through his eyes and get away from pressure from Florida, and then he talked crap to a Sam Houston guy, and that's some real tough stuff. They cannot survive versus a good Oklahoma defense.
Okay.
No way.
So you're telling me that if Texas wins this game, you're gonna come back next week and you're gonna call me back and we'll discuss it. You're making a guarantee here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm telling you, Mark. There's no way. If it was if they were 4-1 and they beat my Gators, I would have taken more seriously to beat Oklahoma. As bad as Arch Manning has been, and that defense can crunch down on him, making it worse than the Florida Gator game, he is not going to get over 14.
Okay.
He ain't going to get over 14, Mark.
Okay. Are you keeping track of your predictions this year?
Okay. That'd be fun. I think Oklahoma.
You should do that. Give that a shot.
Okay. Here's 3 predictions real quick. Then.
Okay.
And you can write them down if you want to.
No, I'm not going to be. If I write them down, I will lose track of them within 13 seconds. So I'm not. I've got enough to keep track of in my life than your predictions.
Write it down then. Oklahoma beats Texas 24-14.
Okay.
Auburn loses to Georgia. Very close. It'd be 31-27.
Okay.
And Florida and Texas A&M, I want to believe in Florida, so I want to say 27-23. Florida wins that one.
Okay. So what are you going to do if Texas wins this game? You're going to come on here next week and what?
Oh, I don't know.
What are the consequences of that?
I apologize because I was completely wrong about Texas.
Okay.
Now,
All right.
I'll tell you, Mark, I'll come up here and I'll sing the fight song of Texas for you.
Okay. I don't know if we want to hear that, but we appreciate you being here, Trey.
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
You have yourself a good night.
Thank
I always steer clear of somebody can't win this game. You know, if anybody called last week and said UCLA can't beat Penn State, I would have even said to them, oh, now come on. Don't tell me that it can't happen. Now, but I generally agree. Yes, UCLA is not going to beat Penn State. But when somebody comes on here and says Texas can't beat Oklahoma, come on. If they play 10 times, they're splitting those 10 games. All right, let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. We got the real MVP on the line.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Does that last caller not know that Texas opened as the favorite? I'm pretty sure Vegas knows what they're doing, Mark.
Yeah,
you know?
they do. These teams are extremely close. Who knows who's going to win
Right.
this game? I will make a prediction, but I will have very little confidence either way.
Oh, by the way, from Josh Pate I saw said Texas would have been favored regardless of Mateer playing in this game. By the way, it was 5.5 without him, 1.5 with him. So Texas is, according to Vegas, just the better team despite results.
Is he just guessing when he
No.
says that?
No, he got it from his. Well, I don't know which sportsbook told him, but he's got connections to sportsbook, and he has them run hypothetical lines and stuff. And that was one he was interested in. So it's about a 4-point swing, which seems about right for a quarterback, is a 4-point swing.
Yes.
The caller didn't understand dependent. Not every game is dependent on the last game, which means if A happened, B doesn't automatically happen. It means it's more likely to happen. So like Florida beat Texas. Therefore, it makes it more likely that Oklahoma beats Texas because we understand Texas isn't as good as we thought they were.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. Anyway, I wasn't going to get into that, but I needed to address some of that, in my opinion, delusion. Mark, the voice of the Big Ten Conference nowadays, Dave Portnoy, is going on this SEC tirade and saying a bunch of nonsensical stuff. Did you see? I agree with the first part. He said Oregon, Ohio State was clearly the best teams and probably would win the SEC. Or he said something along the lines they probably would or would win. I generally agree with that. But then he was talking about teams like Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, USC. Oh, they wouldn't win the SEC. They're just better than the SEC, all those teams.
Iowa?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, Mark, this is the voice of the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's foolish.
It is. But this is the type of delusion the Big Ten man believes. Is that Iowa can go out here and consistently beat Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and these level teams.
Is he calling himself the voice of the Big Ten?
No, he's not, but that's clearly his shtick he's doing. Even during his first time he was on television, he said, I hate Michigan, but I hate the SEC more.
You mean Ohio State?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I hate Ohio State, but I hate the SEC even more. So that's why he picked Ohio State over Texas.
Yeah, he's trying to be the Feinbaum of the other media sites that he represents. Yes.
Correct. Which is why, but if you're going and lean into it, you got to at least say things that are reasonable and articulate, in my opinion. Saying Iowa
generally has.
Yeah, he's
for
more.
As much as people don't like him, he rarely says anything that I find just to be completely off the rails.
Right. Saying Iowa and USC and Michigan would just would probably win the SEC or something along those lines, where it's not even really a debate, and how he's dumbfounded when Michigan lost to Oklahoma and got their butts handed to them is nonsense to me. But
yeah, he either is just playing a role and playing it to the hilt and just going to be ridiculous, and he knows it, or he's just ignorant and knows nothing about football or very little.
Right.
I don't know which it is.
I don't know either. But it's part of the. To me, it's the propaganda war that people believe in. And speaking of that, Mark, I had the conversation with Rob and Matt about 9-3 teams, and I didn't have enough evidence to bring to the table that 9-3 teams. So I did some research.
Yes.
ESPN has their playoff indicator. How many 9-3 teams, okay, when you punch it in, how many of them do you think have a greater than 50% chance to make the playoff from the SEC?
I would say that 4 of them do.
You're close. It's 5.
Okay.
2 of them have about a 90% chance, those 2 being Alabama and Oklahoma. Oklahoma gets as high as 96% chance. So they're basically in no matter what happens.
Their schedule's very difficult. Yeah.
Right. The lowest is Texas A&M at 51%, and then LSU and Texas are around the 70% mark.
Okay.
So to me, that's telling me multiple 9-3 teams are making it in this year. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are that it seems to be playing into my hands in regards to my off-season, preseason predictions. I had 5 SEC teams in the playoffs. I believe I can pull this up, but I had LSU and Oklahoma, most notably in the playoff at 9-3. So this is not going to surprise me. 96% at 9-3, and Oklahoma obviously has yet to lose a game. So we were talking about, they were brought up during our Ohio State show today, and I was proving the same point because nobody thought that could be possible, because it was brought up about Michigan. All Michigan needs to do is go 10-2. They can lose to Ohio State, win the rest of their games they're going to be in. And I said, whoa. I said, that's very conventional thinking, that if an SEC or a Big Ten team go 10-2, they're automatically going to be in the playoffs. And I get that based on the way that these teams have been evaluated in the past and the process is gone. However, let's understand that wouldn't it be fascinating if there's one playoff spot left? And I know under your scenario, where you're pointing, this wouldn't be the final spot because Oklahoma would be clearly in at 9-3. However, let's say it's a 9-3 Oklahoma team and a 10-2 Michigan team. You would have to make the selection that Oklahoma gets that spot over Michigan, even with a worse record, because the obvious head-to-head and the much, much more difficult schedule.
Right. And just to emphasize the point even greater, Oklahoma has a greater than, I think it's around 63%, but it's greater than 60% chance to host a playoff game at 9-3, Mark.
Has anyone dared to calculate the odds of an 8-4 team making the playoffs?
I've done a little bit of 8-4. I've gotten some teams to 4%, 3%, but nothing, nothing reasonable. Like
Sure.
if LSU finished 8-3, it'd be 4%, for example. The reason I can't do Oklahoma and because they haven't lost a game, and you're only allowed to choose the top 3 most likely teams to lose to.
Okay.
In order to put it in the simulation on ESPN's website. So I can't unfortunately do that yet. Interesting to me, though, is like Ole Miss, Georgia, they have absolutely no chance at 9-3. Like they're just completely drawing dead at 9-3, which is a bit interesting to me because of Georgia's perceived dominance over college football. I felt some of the bias and some of the narrative would have played into their rankings and their merit and how good they are according to the FPI, but evidently not.
All right. So Georgia right now has 1 loss. Obviously, they've got Auburn this week on the road. They've got Ole Miss, Florida, Mississippi State, Texas, Georgia Tech at the end of the season. So they have losable games, but no daunting games. So 9-3, you would think would come with, let's say they lose to Ole Miss, they lose to Florida and Texas, I guess. I don't see that many losses for them. But you're saying that Georgia's in that 70% range as a 9.
No, they're at 3% at 9-3.
Oh, they're at 3% because of their,
They're just dead. 3%. They're drawing dead.
Okay. So
And
they've got one other game to lose.
right,
Yeah.
I see Michigan Lander. He said he would bet $100 that no team is ever going to make the playoffs at 9-3 mark.
What?
Ever.
Where,
I just wanted your thoughts on that.
oh my word. Come on. Well, first of all, I just laid out a scenario myself at the beginning of the season, and not to trumpet my own horn on this one, but my predictions are pretty good, usually. And I laid out a season-long scenario that has multiple 9-3 teams in the playoffs. We just saw 10-2 teams make the playoffs last year, and it wasn't even really that chaotic of a season. And we saw 9-3 teams that were we saw a 9-3 team last year, one spot away, and a scenario of games played in the SEC between Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Alabama. Had they been juxtaposed, and South Carolina would have been that team, as hot as they were down the stretch, as impressive as they were down the stretch, if they had won the games against Ole Miss and Alabama, they would have made the playoffs. So
Right.
yes, this is inevitable. If it doesn't happen this year, it's going to happen, and it most likely will happen this year.
Right, I believe it's almost certain to happen this year. And I did not say 12 team, and he did say 12 team. But yes, this year a 9-3 team will make the playoff. I'm almost certain of that, Mark. Like it's like 90-10%. Because the problem for me is these other conferences and teams we thought were going to be really good have kind of fallen off quickly. Like Florida State, Penn State, and those level teams have fallen off, and they're all basically eliminating themselves. Because
Yes.
you're 3-2, how are you going to run the rest of the table? You're going to have a bad game somewhere in there, and those conferences, and with their losses particular, aren't good enough to justify a 9-3 team from those leagues making it. But something else I wanted to ask you, Mark, is I know it's crazy to think about. Is the Big Ten more likely a 2-bid league or a 4-bid league this year?
Well, if the SEC gets 5 and the ACC and the Big 12, I don't think that the ACC and the Big 12 are going to get second teams as it stands right now. I just don't see it. So that's Notre Dame obviously is going to impact this. So we're looking at 5, 6, 7, and the G5 makes 8. That leaves 4 for the Big 10. Depending on Notre Dame, I'm going to lean at 4 over 2.
Really? Because I'm leaning at 2. And the reason I am is
Well, I knew that the way you posed the question.
Fair.
Sure.
Let me explain my reasoning why. Indiana, I feel like, still have some bias against them because of their brand and their lack of non-conference schedule.
Yep.
And I believe that if Oregon does to them what I think a lot of people do and expecting them to blow them out, okay? I just don't see, if it's Indiana that misses the playoffs, I don't see who that team can be. Because USC, Michigan, one of them teams are going to eliminate themselves this week. If Michigan beats USC, they're going to eliminate themselves because they got to go to Columbus. And they're going to get, Ohio State's defense is so much better than everyone else's defense in the country. It's insane this year. And they just don't have the offense to really compete, in my opinion, against Ohio State. And then you would have to have, like Illinois lost by 8 touchdowns. And if they lose another game and not go 11-1, I think that margin of victory is just so massive, especially from the power rankings perspective. I just don't see how they get in. So I think
Yeah, you're putting Ohio State and Oregon in the playoff, right?
Yeah, I don't see how they don't get in at this point.
I'm looking at Indiana's schedule. They lose this game at Oregon, and you believe they're going to lose big.
Yes.
Then they've got Michigan State, UCLA, Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue. They are going to be a heavy favorite in all of those games, excluding going to Penn State.
Correct. I think if they go 10-2, they're out of the playoffs.
Well, they're only going to have one loss if they lose to Oregon, and they're able to go to Penn State and win.
Correct. Well, that's assuming, going back to, how we can't just use one result. I don't think this UCLA game is a total indicative that Penn State has completely fallen off.
Oh,
and
I
that
don't
they're
think
just
so
going to
either.
be.
No.
I still think Penn State will probably be favored in that game, and I believe they'll be expected to win that game.
Okay. And if somebody's rooting, just say a Big Ten fan, they don't care who goes from the Big Ten, but they want as many Big Ten teams to go as possible. They are rooting for Michigan Saturday night against USC, correct?
Correct. I would say so.
Yeah. And they're rooting for Nebraska to win out.
Right.
So Nebraska's got Maryland, Minnesota, Northwestern, USC. If they can beat USC at home, UCLA, they go to Happy Valley against Penn State. They've got Iowa. So that's not a difficult schedule if you're a really good team, but Nebraska is not a really good
Right.
team.
That's what I was going to say. That's probably
Yeah.
an 8-4
Yes.
schedule.
If this is Oregon or someone of that ilk, that's not a real difficult schedule. But Nebraska, to date, has yet to show me that they can beat anyone that's any good.
No, I
So,
mean, they're better than I thought they were because Cincinnati is better than I thought
they're
they were.
capable. Yeah, they're a decent team. They're a top 40 team in the country, but they're going to have to navigate. I still think Minnesota is a decent team, and they got to go on the road. They've got USC, they got Penn State and Iowa. So for them to navigate against four teams that they have shown no ability under Matt Rule to win those games, to win four of them, well, I guess at this point, they would at least need to win three of them, although you do not see Nebraska making the playoffs at 10-2. But I think that those would be three quality wins for them.
Yeah, I mean, they would be in the discussion, but I think they would be on the lower hand of discussion because the Cincinnati loss in particular is just, I don't believe Cincinnati's going to be win the Big 12 or do anything special this year. I knew they beat Iowa State, but if Cincinnati was favored to win that game, they're just in that hodgepodge of 8-4, 9-3 Big 12 team. They just don't look impressive at all. I mean, maybe they still can make it.
Win.
Huh?
It's a win. If it were a loss, then it would be more important to prop up Nebraska's out of conference schedule with a loss. But they won the game.
I understand, but still, it's their only real marquee non-conference win. And these things. If you're at the bubble this year in particular, there's not a whole lot of separation. So I think these marginal factors are going to be amplified.
Sure, but I do understand that they will have a 3-point loss against, let's say, a 10-2 Michigan team, and they will have another loss against one of these other four competent teams and 3 other wins.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they would be in the discussion. The problem is in this hypothetical scenario is I'm just giving in one variable, and I would have to see how the rest of the schedule plays out for every other team.
So this is me just giving you an argument of why I lean 4 over 2. And obviously you picked that scenario because 3 is the likely number.
Right. 3's the most likeliest. And those 3 is most likely Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
all right, real.
No, the final thing I was going to ask you about is the winner of the Oregon, Indiana game going to the Big Ten title game?
Yes.
Okay. Have a good one, Mark.
Thanks to Real. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here. Comments, questions are welcome. Leave those super chats there as well. Otherwise, we will be bidding adieu. But of course, we want to get to these calls. I am apologetic here to Kyle Loomis. Kyle, I did not see that you were one of the callers lined up here.
Sorry about that.
But Kyle, we appreciate you being here. E2C Network, everyone. Kyle with the Auburn community there. And this is one of the great rivalries in college football. It's the oldest one in the Deep South with Georgia and Auburn getting together.
Yes, it is. It's actually, well, maybe I shouldn't play the game this late in the evening of where it ranks in the top rivalries. But what I talk about with Auburn and Georgia is I use this phrase a lot these days, connective tissue between the two programs. Now you can exemplified. Sorry. I think that's no better exemplified than the relationship of Vince Dooley and Pat Dye, two of the great coaches for both those schools. Most people probably don't know this, or maybe most people do, that Vince Dooley went to Auburn, but then went to coach at Georgia. Pat Dye went to Georgia, became a legendary coach at Auburn. And so that in and of itself right there is all you really need to know just for a basic 101 course about why this is so important, Auburn and Georgia. But then you just look at the great history. Now, certainly Georgia has had the upper hand the last decade for this to get it back in their the record in their favor, but it doesn't change when Auburn and Georgia get together. It's fiery, it's awesome, but there is a true I think in the bowels of this a brotherly type of rivalry with Auburn and Georgia.
So I did not get a chance to watch the Texas A&M game. I went back and watched like the 15-minute highlight package, so I got to see the key plays and so forth.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah, statistically this was a mismatch. Although Auburn was in the game and it had a, technically, anytime you're within one score, you're one play away.
Yeah.
From tying or winning the game. So it was a 16-10 game, but offensively, Auburn did not show up in this game.
Not showing up would have been better, to be honest with you. It was horrendous. It was pitiful. And I'm not someone that likes to throw these emotional statements around like that, but let's just call it what it was. It was horrendous. It was pitiful. It was all that. And no one knows that better than the coaches, the players. They've said it themselves. So I'm not saying anything that hasn't been repeated. But what's from that last game, what's almost as shocking to me is how much Texas A&M gave Auburn opportunity to win this game. Their defense showed up. Xavier Atkins, if you haven't looked up his stat line from that game, go look it up. It's very impressive, and that just carried that throughout the rest of the season so far for him. Xavier Atkins had himself a day defensively, forced fumble, interception nearly for a touchdown. I think, I forget how long it was. I forget how many total tackles he had for himself, but just his whole season, he's been doing great. There you go. 10 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss, interception, forced fumble. He was outstanding. That was about it. The offensive line looked just about as bad as it did versus Oklahoma. We ran the ball, true running plays for running backs. I think it was 8 times. It wasn't good, Mark. And somehow Auburn had a shot to win the game multiple times. And you can say, yeah, Auburn looked horrendous, but I saw so many Texas A&M fans and talked to them after the game and said, boy, we got some issues too, if that's how we're going to look versus how bad Auburn played. So it's such a wide, that game's been 2 weeks ago at this point, Mark. And I think I've probably just tried to put it behind and move on from this because it feels like this has to be a fresh start for Auburn going into Georgia. If not, this is going to create a very bad trend for this year.
We had a section of time in the SEC running from about 2015, and then Georgia joined Alabama to about 2023 when Alabama and Georgia would play, and it was almost like watching an NFL game. It was like, those are the 2 best teams in the country. And I'm not talking about every single week, covering all the time. Sometimes Clemson would move in there or Ohio State, but basically those are the 2 best teams in the country. Can anybody else play with them? Is there anybody else in the country? Anyone else in the SEC? Clemson, Ohio State, those were pretty much the only options. But you knew when you were watching those 2 play, it's no longer that in the SEC, and Georgia is now running around with a loaded roster, but it doesn't seem like it's immortal. Like these guys are otherworldly. Yeah. And even through that, Auburn was able to take them to the wire a few times. Most notably, the last one I remember was they really had a shot on the Plains a couple of years ago. Yep. In the 4th quarter against Carson Beck and company. So this Georgia team is human. They're a really good team. They're no doubt one of the 5 to 10 best teams in the country, but this is a winnable game again.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said it earlier on the show about if anyone says there's never a chance for someone to win. I mean, we saw even evidence of that. So let's take that, but let's add this to this. You referenced the last game in Jordan-Hare with Georgia, but let's even reference the one before that. Neither of those 2 Auburn teams in that year, even with the home field advantage of Jordan-Hare, had any business, in my opinion, of being in a conversation at any point in the game with those Georgia teams. And yet somehow they were. So if you're walking into this Auburn-Jordan-Hare matchup with Georgia, and saying there's not a chance, then we just can't have an intellectually honest conversation with you. Now, it is still Georgia. Auburn's still got to take care of their business. Auburn's got to figure out how. Mark, I'm so sorry. I feel like every time we're here, I'm saying this. Auburn has got to figure out how to have consistent offensive line play, and allow your quarterbacks to not develop bad habits. Allow your quarterbacks to have time to operate within the system that they've been coached. And some of that's on the coaching for putting them in the right positions to do that. But I walk into this Auburn-Georgia game feeling neither confident that Auburn's going to win or confident that Auburn's going to lose. I think this is going to be a wildly fun, heavily contested, great game that we're going to walk away from on a first time in like a decade night game in Jordan Hare for Auburn, Georgia. That's just going to be outstanding to watch. And, I saw a lot of people last week say that last week's slate of college football just didn't live up to the hype as much. And I think this Auburn game will be a testament that we're back, baby. I know it was only a week break, but we're back, baby.
Auburn's in a position where they've lost a second SEC game. And so I know that this wasn't a team that people were counting on being in the playoffs, but when that second discussion was being had during the offseason, okay, who are the dark horses out there? Auburn would come to mind for myself and a lot of other people. Now that there's been a second loss, I don't know if you heard the previous caller, but 9-3 is very much in play, considering how difficult the SEC is this year and how much. And for anyone who's going to detract, I should say, from the SEC this year, this has nothing to do with recruiting rankings. It has nothing to do with the future NFL draft selections. It has nothing to do with the previous championships won. No, the SEC went out this year and won the great majority of games. There's no question that the SEC played the best football out of conference than the other three conferences. It's not even close.
Right.
So the SEC is going to get the benefit of the doubt in these selections because they earned it. 10 wins, 4 losses against the other conferences. And they won meaningful games as well. And Auburn has one of them against Baylor. So I guess Auburn, it's not looking real good, but there's still that thread of hope that they can make a real meaningful season out of this.
We just did our live stream earlier before your show started, and we, with one of our callers, were discussing, the feelings around this game, and we came up with this analogy of if you're out there at the beach and way off on the horizon, you can see the storm clouds brewing and maybe even a lightning bolt kind of come down, and you're like, is that going to come to us? And it gets real close just because you can see so far off in the distance, because you've got, and maybe just relating this back to Auburn, because you've seen this so much before over the last couple of seasons. I would say the storm clouds are brewing. The question is it coming ashore? And this is not to say that this Georgia game is that for Auburn. If you lose this game, the season is somehow just, over. There's nothing great that can happen. But on the flip side, just because you win this game doesn't mean that it changes everything that's been going wrong with the season. This is an important game. It is just another game in a brutal SEC schedule. Auburn has obviously not taken advantage of the opportunities that Oklahoma gave it, that it gave itself, the Oklahoma, that Texas A&M clearly gave Auburn. And if you can get the win versus Georgia within the confines of Jordan Hare, it doesn't make up for everything, but sure makes those storm clouds roll back off into the horizon for a little bit and kind of calms down a little bit of the frustrations that have been brewing. The worst part about this, Mark, is it's been a bye week, and Auburn fans have just been chomping at the bit. We got to see what this team is going to look like and respond after that horrendous Texas A&M game.
Kyle, we appreciate you stopping by. And again, we want to encourage everyone to check out Kyle's channel, E2C Network, if I can find the banner here. And it's E2C Network right here on YouTube to check out everything concerning Auburn football. Basketball, of course, is starting here very soon, and the rest of the athletics and the community there on the Plains.
Thank you for having me on. We appreciate it. Always get the chance to talk Auburn.
All right, good stuff out of Kyle. And let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football, since it has become very apparent that we're running out of time. For as much as I would want to sit here all night, you folks don't want me to. So we got Adam stopping by. Adam, what's going on?
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. What's the good word?
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed that my New York Yankees lost to the Blue Jays and are officially out. But since we're talking about college football, I just wanted to briefly go into a little bit more in-depth analysis of Ohio State.
Okay.
So everyone's talking about Ohio State might be the best team in the country, has a great defense. Now, after the first half at Washington, it was 7-3 Ohio State, with Washington averaging 4.4 yards per play. At the half against Ohio University, it was Ohio State 13-3, and after the third quarter, 23-9 Ohio State. And after 3 quarters against Texas, which we now know is a mess, it was only 7-0 Ohio State. So I'm not sold on Ohio State yet, both when you look closer at the quarter-by-quarter breakdown and you look at their strength of schedule. So where am I going wrong?
So who are you sold on?
At this point, the only team, and I hate to say it, that I think is going to be a very serious national championship contender is Miami.
Okay. I thought you would say that. I do believe that Miami has the best resume in the country, and I don't even think it's that debatable. They have beaten 4 quality. When I say quality, people are going to take that to an extreme. No, they're not top 10 teams in the country, but we're talking about capable football teams.
Right.
And one really good team in Notre Dame. I still believe that Notre Dame is a top 10 team in the country.
Agreed.
So Miami's played better, and they've played better competition. I still have more confidence in Ohio State. I'm not stating categorically, without doubt, that they are the best team in the country, but that's certainly my lean. And I am sure that they are one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the country. And you do bring up their slow offensive starts. I do want to, approach the conversation from the quarterback standpoint that we got our tip from Ryan Day in week 1 that they were going to bring along their quarterback because they knew what they had on defense, that as long as the game played out each week the way they anticipated, and it has, that they would protect their quarterback. I'm not talking about physically, but in regards to play calling and just play in front and not mess it up. And they're giving him a little bit more of the playbook each week, and he aired it out against Minnesota this past week that they won 42-3. We're not going to see, I will have everybody mark this down, we're not going to see anybody else beat Minnesota 42-3 this year.
True. So I guess my question is, when I looked at Washington was moving the ball fairly well against Ohio State, even though the points didn't show up on the scoreboard. In the third quarter, Ohio scored a touchdown on Ohio State. So when I get to a more granular level, I still see a really, really good team, but I see a team that I'm just not sure if they play against the Miami or if they play against an Alabama, how it's going to pan out. So I guess we're going to know more this week against Illinois. So what are your thoughts on Ohio State's performance against Illinois? Is it going to be like when they went to Iowa a few years ago and or maybe 5-10 years ago and got crushed? Or are they going to go to Illinois and really take care of business? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would anticipate them taking care of business, but I think Illinois is a capable opponent. The point spread's about 2 touchdowns, and I think that's about where it should be. Illinois does not to date have a good defense, which is kind of surprising because when they've had decent teams under Brett Bielema, their defense was really good. It was number 1 in the nation in 2022. But this version of Illinois is more pass dependent, and they beat up USC in the fourth quarter running the ball, and they beat up Duke in the second half running the ball. So they've got a decent offensive line. The key to this game, to me, is going to be, I trust Luke Altmaier, but like any quarterback, he can't throw the ball on his backside. So Illinois run blocked well against Duke. They didn't in the first half. They had negative rushing yards in the first half, and that's why it was a good game. And then they blew them out in the second half because they run blocked, and they did the same thing with USC. They pushed around USC in the fourth quarter. But against Indiana, Indiana's front seven dominated Illinois. I think they had 7 or 8 sacks in that game. Obviously, they only gave up 1 long touchdown pass, and that was it. So if Ohio State's defensive front's as good as I think they are and can dominate Illinois' offensive line, game, set, match, it's over. But if Altmaier gets protected and they have any kind of push in the run game, I'm just talking 3 to 3.5 yards per carry, then I think it's a tricky. It's similar to what we saw against Washington, but Illinois could probably, make it a 4-quarter game.
Yeah, I tend to think it's going to be Ohio State 38, Illinois 17. I think it's going to show that Ohio State is a national championship contender. But when I look at the front seven of Miami, they kind of remind me a little bit, and this is a rough comparison, but to the Eagles' defensive line in the Super Bowl last year. They get penetration and they disrupt the quarterback. So Ohio State, I think, will come out as a legitimate national championship contender. But at this point, I could not tell you who is going to emerge as the national champion. It's going to be a great end to the season. So thanks for taking my call, Mark. As always, I appreciate it. And great show as always.
Thanks for showing up, Adam.
You got it.
You can catch Adam and Gabe on Tuesday nights on the Rutgers channel right here at the Voice of College Football. Again, it's Rutgers at the Voice of College Football every Tuesday in the Scarlet Knights. If you did not catch the top of the show, have a game coming up on Friday night against Washington. All right. It appears as though we have come to our last caller of the night. We got Rob on the line. Rob, what's going on?
Hey, Mr. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, so real quick for Daryl, 9-3 teams. I think they're probably might be one in the playoffs this year. I certainly don't anticipate more than 2. 2 would be like, well, that's all speculation. But anyways, I know he loves Josh Pate, so I know it's going to kill him to hear that Josh Pate already said that Notre Dame will be in the playoffs, assuming that they win out, which they probably should. But anyway, I don't really want to talk about any of that. That was just kind of tongue-in-cheek, being silly. My question is, with the Bill Belichick disaster, what are your, like, in this new era that we're in this NIL era, do you see coaches getting the contracts that they were getting in the past? Because, like, these schools, they can't afford, like, look at Penn State. Their fan base is rabid. They want James Franklin gone, which I will say to Penn State fans, be careful what you wish for. But anyways, they want James Franklin gone, but the school is on the hook for like $50 million. If they don't negotiate a buyout, they're going to have to get their donors to get 50+ million together to get James Franklin out of there. And same with Brian Kelly. Like, if LSU misses the playoffs again, which I think they will, that fan base is not going to be okay with that. Like, this was the year for LSU to make the playoffs. And he's got a ton of money that, like, all these coaches have these massive buyouts, and Belichick's been the worst of them all. So how do you see the future of coaches' contracts in this new NIL era going forward?
So I'd put it this way, that if the administrators of college football, meaning the administrators of the schools, could all get together and determine, okay, this is getting out of hand in terms of coaches' salaries, simultaneous with us having to pay players, and scratch and claw NIL collectives together to further pay the players, that no longer should we be paying coaches. I think we're at the top end with Kirby Smart at $13 million, and several in the $9 to $12 million range, that they would be able to say, you know what, let's suppress this down to the top guy gets $7 million, $5 million, but that's called collusion. So they can't do that legally. So I don't know how they're going to get in a position. Somebody would have to be the leader to jump out there and only offer $5 million a year to a front-running head coach for a major job, but then they're obviously not going to take, I don't know what's going to, nothing has ever corrected the market in the history of professional sports, and we might as well call this a professional sport. So that's never happened before, to be able to rein in. Now, the lengths of these contracts, that could be something that they take into consideration and counteract all this buyout money, because what's happened that I can't understand, and I point this out from time to time, when a coach gets extended coming off one, and sometimes it's not even an outstanding season. It's like one decent season. And this coach is only 2 years into a contract that's 7, 8 years long, and they're already extending him for like 10 or 11 years. Why they do that, I don't know. Now, I understand from a recruiting standpoint, trying to stay ahead of the current classes that are signing, to say, yeah, your coach is going to be around for your career, but that's not even as vital as it once was, because the players aren't even going to be around for that long. So you would think that while if everything I said just made sense, which maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but it does to me, that the per year contracts are not going to slow down. They may slow. I do think that they'll slow down, but they're not going to regress or decrease. But the willingness of these schools to go 7 and 8 years out with these coaches, that may come to an end.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think, like you said, no school is probably going to want to just like underbid for a coach that they're desiring, but they could say, you know what, we'll sign you to like a 3-year deal, and we'll give you a lot of money, 3-year deal. Maybe they guarantee the first year or something. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's not like Penn State doesn't have a lot of money, but they don't have the type of money, liquid cash, $50 million to just buy or get rid of James Franklin and take that loss. So it's just crazy to me how some of these contracts even got worked. But I think something's got to happen, because in this new era we're in, it's more important to pay your players. I thought it was funny, this Mark in the comments, not you, but the Mark that's in the comment section, said he would coach North Carolina and give the same record for a cool $1 million. I thought that was pretty hilarious, because Bill Belichick has been so disastrously bad. Like, I did not see him doing all that well, but I said, okay, he brought in a lot of people from the transfer portal, like just a ridiculous amount of players from the transfer portal. And I'm like, all right, let's see what he can do. And this has just been an embarrassing. I mean, UNC, I feel bad for their fans right now, because you got the whole girlfriend drama, and now this. Oh, it's brutal, Mark.
Bill Belichick's coaching legacy has taken a huge hit over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So we had the first obvious comparison to make when he parted ways with Tom Brady. Tom Brady goes and wins the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Teams implode at New England, and he's throwing up 4-11 kind of seasons, or whatever it is, 4-13, I guess now, 17 game seasons. So that didn't look good. And then he comes to coach in college football, and Mac Brown, at the point of, I don't want to discount Mac Brown, but at the point that he was in his career, it had the feel of him semi-mailing it in, and he could still post 7-6, 8-5 seasons at North Carolina, and they are just completely atrocious.
Yeah, I bet the fan base, like, Mac Brown looks like a genius now, when you compare him to Belichick. So,
and especially when you take into consideration, look at every great college football coach in history, really. Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, I'll start with those two guys. They're the easiest comparisons, or the easiest examples. As soon as these guys walked on somebody's campus, they were automatically better.
right.
Like, they were automatically insanely better, where you would scratch your head and be like, aren't they working with the same kids that they had the year before? Pretty much. And they're taking 7-5 teams and making them 11-1 teams, or whatever. And Bill Belichick is taking, a decent football team, and of course, half of them left, and he brought in a whole new batch. And we had our Clemson guy on from the Clemson Insider the other night, who was at the most recent Clemson North Carolina game. He said it was just strange. He had never seen a coach stand on the sideline and really not interact with any players during the game, and barely interact with his assistant coaches. He said the assistant coaches were like 20 feet away from him, and he was just kind of standing there by himself for the majority of the game.
Yeah, it's honestly bizarre. In fact, it's one of the most bizarre coaching incidents I've ever seen in my career. My life of watching football, college or professional. So,
Yeah. And
um,
I will admit to not have taken us. I did not take a stand when he was hired to say this is brilliant, this is genius, or this is idiotic. It's not going to work. I was kind of like, I don't know. Let's see it play. I didn't take a stand on it because I don't take a stand if I don't think that I've got a reasonable, strong opinion on it, and I didn't. So we're seeing the fruits of it. I saw a stat this weekend that I thought was hilarious that North Carolina is the only team in the country that has lost all of its power conference games by at least 25 points.
oh my gosh, yeah, that's something else. Well,
They lost to UCF by 35 points.
yeah. I think at this point, and it felt to me kind of like this when he got the job, is that it almost felt like he just felt like doing it just because it would give him some money and give him something to, like, get out of the house. Like, that's what this UNC job has become for Bill Belichick. It's just like a little hobby for him.
See, I thought of that more from Mac Brown. So the two most recent North Carolina coaches are both over the hill grandpa types, but they're very different grandpa types.
Right.
Mac Brown's kind of the cuddly grandpa type that the grandkids run to, and they enjoy being with grandpa. And Bill Belichick's the ornery, grumpy grandpa that nobody wants to be around. But they're both, in the twilights of their careers. Well, Mac Brown, he leaves television after what can seem like, when you're in this profession, it seems like forever. When it's 5 years, like, do you, like, if Urban Meyer would come back now, even though he's a fairly young guy, he's in his late 50s. It's not like Mac Brown, who was probably in his early 70s at the time. But I just thought, okay, I don't know that this is really a smart move to make. Isn't he just going to mail it in? He doesn't seem like he's got the fire to pull this off. Well, they were okay. They were all right. They had one nice Orange Bowl season. They had another season. They went to the ACC championship game. They were decent, and then it kind of tapered off. And again, no disaster there. 8-5, 7-6, a lot of those. But like, I saw it as that's Mac Brown thinking, I want to stay active. I want to be in the game. This is a job that still kind of puts me in the limelight. It's a national job to an extent, but there's not going to be too much pressure. I can go 7-5, 8-5. I'll be fine. But Belichick, you would think he appears to be the 24/7, 365 in the film room all the time maniac that has to win and be proven right. So I didn't put that together that he would mail it in.
Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. It's just, I guess, in watching that now, like I said, this whole thing has been so bizarre with his girlfriend too. I know the fans for North Carolina were just like, can we please get the season started so we don't have to listen to this girlfriend nonsense? But now it's just like, oh, I mean, like I said, I feel terrible for that fan base. As the real pointed out in the chat, at least the basketball season will be coming up and they'll have something to root for after that. But well, always awesome talking to you, Mark. Great show as always. I'll get out of here so you can get some rest and I can get some rest as well.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate
All
you
right.
being here.
Yep, thanks.
This is how things can change, or at least we can get clarity in this case very quickly. 6 weeks ago, North Carolina TCU, selected by ESPN as their Labor Day game. It wasn't because of TCU, believe me. So those games are reserved for Notre Dame, Florida State, etc. This year, TCU and North Carolina. Why? Because of Bill Belichick, obviously. And all that hype, all that attention. What's he going to do at North Carolina? And here we are 6 weeks later. What's he going to do? He's a miserable failure. And you guys know, if you've watched me for a decent amount of time, I usually don't pull the plug or make a rash judgment like, okay, they lost this week, they suck, we're done with them. I don't do that. And it's not like Bill Belichick suddenly doesn't know football, but this was just not the right fit for him. I don't know that there is a fit at this stage of his career. He obviously still knows the game very well, but he did not he did not prepare himself on how to approach college football in terms of the transfer portal and all that's one thing. So he can still sit in a room with a film projector and evaluate players. But in regards to preparing a team psychologically, mentally, emotionally, 18 to 22-year-olds to play with their hair on fire on Saturday, he obviously doesn't have that in him. And he's been in the professional ranks forever. He probably never had that in him. And to expect him to draw that out of himself, whether he attempted to or not, I doubt it. At this stage of life, maybe if I would have processed that during the offseason, I would have predicted this to come unraveled as it has. Like I say, I was non-committal either way. I usually have a strong opinion about these sorts of things. But in this case, I was like, it's a wild card. Let's see if it works, because I can make the argument that Bill Belichick's going to tear it up at North Carolina as long as they give him the resources. And I would think he would be the type that would say, you need to show me that I'm going to get the resources that I need, or it's going to be a disaster. Well, it turned out to be a disaster. There are parallels to this and to Herm Edwards taking the Arizona State job. And I predicted that would be a disaster. It started out, it was never great, but it started out okay. He had a couple wins early that showed that, oh, okay, maybe Herm Edwards was a good choice and he can really relate to these kids. And no, it didn't work out. They needed as many programs do and many businesses in life do, they went the opposite direction. They went from oldest coach in the country, roughly, Herm Edwards, to Kenny Dillingham. Let's get him. Okay. Do appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. I'll be back on Thursday, same time, same place. And we'll talk college football, and no huge Thursday night games. So we'll do 10 p.m. Eastern time with you. See you then.